Okay, love. Okay, welcome to Eco 501, Section 1, Week 3, Spring 2022. Today is Saturday, February 12th, 2022. Okay, so today our main focus will be on how to read a graph, how to interpret a slope, how to interpret ratios, and we'll see these in various dimensions because most of the technical terms that we will be doing in this course will be a lot. Most of it will be visual since we're doing it online. So, but even then, we need to understand the tools very well. And another thing we'll try to understand is something called marginal decisions, what it is, how it's made, what impact or influence does it make on decision making. Finally, if we have time, then I'll do a briefing of the demand and supply model that we are going to look at from next week. If we don't have time, I'll just at least summarize within few minutes what demand and supply things we will be focusing on. So let's open the slides. Here it is. Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, lovely. So, as I said, topic 1 is how to read a graph. Topic 2 is what are slopes, how to interpret ratios. Slope is basically a ratio. Then we'll look at a slope in a graph in different contexts. We'll look at the marginal concept, why we use it, what impact it has. And finally, if we have time, I'll discuss demand and supply. If we don't have time, then I'll just summarize what of demand and supply actually we will be looking into the course. Our reference is Stiglitz, Walsh, McGuigan, and others. Whatever reference we give, the page numbers will be given, so you can cross-check it with the main text from the Google Drive. Okay, so our topic 1 is reading graphs from Stiglitz and Walsh, page 47 to 50. So this is basically an appendix on how to read a graph. And to some of you, it will be very, very elementary. To others, it could be that after a long time, you're looking at it, so you need to look at it again. But our main analysis will be nothing but basic high school mathematics. Okay, so what is a graph? If we ask ourselves what a graph is just basically a two-dimensional presentation of two variables. That's it. So when we were in high school, we had an x-axis, which was horizontal. We had a y-axis, which was vertical. And then within one of we had 4 axes. The top right one was where x and y both are positive. The top left one was where x is negative, y is positive. Bottom left, x is negative, y is also negative. And the bottom right, x is positive, y is negative. So we had 4 axes and we just called them x and y. Now, when we look at economics, our variables are mainly what? Price and quantity. It could be tax rate, it could be cost, it could be anything, okay? But whatever variables we look at, none of the variables will ever be negative. Will we ever experience a negative price? Price
may be down, but it cannot be a negative.
It will be negative. Okay, so whatever output there is, whether that's a consumption output, whether that's a production output, it will never be negative. So whatever variables we look at in economics, the variables values will be at least 0. So আমরা যখন বলবো যে at least 0, before we get into the graphs, we can automatically visualize that our entire entire graphical concentration will be on the first quadrant, right? Where x is always positive, at least 0, y is also positive, at least 0. Okay, so this thing we have clarified that we are not looking at the second, third, and the fourth quadrants because none of our values will be negative. আচ্ছা এখন একটা জিনিস হচ্ছে since we are looking visually there are some conventions হচ্ছে when we walk horizontally, right? Hmm? And our brain is wired to see a left to
Yes,
right
sir.
as positive, তাই না? If we see somebody walking from left to right, তোমাদের জন্য এটা left to right না? So automatically we wire it in our heads that this is a positive movement horizontally. If somebody is walking like this, they're also walking horizontally, but our brain has been wired in such a way that when we see right to left movement, we automatically calculate that as a negative movement, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
when we
Yes,
look
sir.
at x-axis or the horizontal, I'm not going to use the word x, I'll use the word horizontal. When we use the word, look at the horizontal axis, we think about the horizon. ওখান থেকে horizontal শব্দটা আসছে. So whenever we see the horizon, we are always wired to see left to right movement as positive, right to left movement as negative. Then we have another axis, which is the vertical axis or the y-axis in mathematics. ঠিক আছে? The word vertical comes from vertex. Vertex means top point, শীর্ষবিন্দু. So the moment we use the word vertical axis, we are basically looking at a vertical movement. Acha. If we look at a vertical movement, how is our brain wired? Any upward movement we or calculate as positive, right? That's how our brain has been wired. So whenever we see a vertical upward movement, we say that the y variable is going up. The value is going up. Whenever we see a downward movement, we say that the y variable is going down. So the second point is, after we have decided that the first quadrant is the quadrant that we will concentrate on, any leftward movement, rightward movement horizontally is we can define as positive and negative. Any upward and downward movement vertically we define as positive and negative. ঠিক আছে? আচ্ছা, এটা পর্যন্ত ঠিক আছে. Now the next part is there is a mathematics convention. What is the mathematics convention? By definition, x-axis is always the axis of the independent variable. Who has forgotten this in this class? Some of you will definitely remember, but যেটা আমরা লাস্ট ক্লাসে বলেছি যে ম্যাথমেটিক্স কে ছোটবেলা থেকে আমাদেরকে শিখিয়ে দেওয়া হয়, you know mathematics you're a genius, you don't know mathematics you're an idiot. ঠিক আছে? Is there anybody who has forgotten that x-axis by convention is always the axis of the independent variable? So we all remember, right? Okay. তাহলে by convention, y-axis is the axis of the dependent variable. This is the mathematics convention. আমরা এই কনভেনশনটাকে উল্টায় দেব. Write this down on your notebook. This is very important in the sense that we will be considering y 9 out of 10 times as the independent variable. And then we will be considering x as the dependent variable. So if you have a mathematics background, if you're 100% wired, কিছু কিছু graphs, mathematics যেটা 90 degree মনে হবে, that will become 0 degree in economics. কিছু কিছু graphs যেগুলো 0 degree মনে হবে mathematically, that will become 90 degree in economics. So the moment we change the two axes, the y becomes the independent variable, x becomes the dependent variable. তখন যেটা হবে যে আমাদের হিসাবটা উল্টায় যাবে. That's it. It will not affect any of our results, but it's just something that a visual ধাক্কা খাবো আমরা, those of us who are very well wired mathematically. Okay, so now let me get back to the slides. Yeah, you can see it now. So a graph is basically a two-dimensional presentation that expresses the relationship between two variables. Now, one thing we need to clarify is that this relationship will be either causation or correlation. Does have you heard the two words causation and correlation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the difference between causation and correlation?
Causation, for A, something will happen to B, but
Because
for
of A.
correlation, if A increase, B will increase or decrease. But they will have a correlative correlation. They will have a correlation. I'm sorry.
Okay, lovely. Correlation means the two variables are related to each other. Let me give you an example. Children of rich parents also are rich. ঠিক আছে? Children of poor parents end up becoming poor. So we have two variables here. We have one variable as the parents, another variable we have the children. So if we take a data set and we start plotting the parents' income against children's income in the next generation, we will definitely find a correlation. Most of the times এটা দেখা গেছে যে children of rich parents end up becoming rich. Most of the times children of poor parents end up becoming not that rich most of the times. Then the question becomes, is there a causation behind it? What is the causation? Causation means, is there a functional relationship between them? Because a parent is rich, their child is poor, rich. This is the functional relationship. Because the parent is poor, the child is poor. The moment we use the word because, we are saying that something is independent, and then the next part is the second variable changes because of the first variable. তখন একটা functional relationship হয়. Now,
so basically price and demand are causation.
কেমনে? Price and demand are functional.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I know you're confused. that's why এখন আমি বলছি এটা. So the thing is, when we said that children's income is related with the income of their parents, we said that it's a correlation. Now, can any of us sanely think because somebody is rich, their children will always be rich? এটা বলা যাবে সবসময়?
No, sir. No, sir. It will be not.
That means I being rich is not totally dependent on my parents' background. There are other factors as well. Now, in the context of price and quantity demanded or price and quantity supplied, like the person who just asked the question that she's confused, we can automatically say price changes first. Households see it as a signal, they decide how much to consume. Price changes, firms see it as a signal, they decide how much to produce. এটা একটা causation না? এটা একটা functional relationship না?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Unlike the previous example যেখানে আমরা বলেছি যে children of rich parents end up becoming rich. Children of poor parents end up becoming poor. Yes, ওরকম trend দেখা যায়, but can we say that there is a functional relationship between those two?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
আর যদি বলতে হয় তাহলে আমাদেরকে নানান রকমের কায়দা কানুন করে একটা মডেল তৈরি করে then we have to establish a causation relationship. তাহলে আমরা যখন গ্রাফে we plot points, then try to find whether the trend line is going upward, downward, or nothing at all, then there's two things that will happen. One, it could be a causation, it could be a correlation. If it is correlation, then it's a pattern. If it is causation, then it's a functional relationship. এটা কি এখন মোটামুটি ঠিক বোঝা গেছে? If we say that the relationship causation, তার মানে something causes something to happen. causation শব্দ থেকে তো তাই মনে হয়, তাই না? Something causes something to happen. If that is the case, then the relationship must be a functional relationship.
Sir, that does it mean that causation will be always directly or indirectly proportional?
Directly hole there will be a positive relationship. The
Yes.
line will be going upwards. Indirectly there will be a negative relationship. Line will be going downwards. Any one of the two. But whether it is positive or negative, one variable changes first, the independent variable, say price. Because of the independent variable, quantity demanded is influenced or quantity supplied is influenced. So if we are looking at quantity supplied, we'll have a direct relationship, positive, going upwards. If we're looking at quantity demanded, we'll have an indirect relation that's going downwards. Is that clear now?
Yeah, yes,
Yes,
sir.
এই জিনিসগুলো আমি রিভিজিট করছি বিকজ ওয়ান্স উই গেট ইন মানে এরপরে আমরা জিনিসগুলো আরো মানে ইন ডিটেল দেখব, তখন জিনিসগুলো আরো ক্লিয়ার হবে। সো this relationship, as we said, may be functional, where we can say because of price, quantity demanded changes. Because of price, quantity supplied changes. ঠিক আছে? Or it could be just an association. There's just a pattern. ঠিক আছে? সেটাকে আমরা correlation বলি। আচ্ছা, the x-axis is the horizontal axis, and we've already mentioned this, that we are wired to see a left to right movement horizontally as positive, right to left movement as negative. আচ্ছা, এই জিনিসটা এখন আমরা জিনিসটাকে একটু ক্লিয়ার করি। এই যে এই উদাহরণটাও আছে যে এখানে, do children of professionals and high income parents get better jobs, yes or no? এটাকে আমরা নিশ্চিত হয়ে বলতে পারি? Look at this. Can we make a মানে এমন একটা statement yes and then say 90% times it will be true, or we say no 90% times it will be true? এভাবে বলা যাবে?
No, sir.
No, sir.
These type of behaviors, these type of patterns, if we plot on a graph, will be correlation. But if we frame the question like this, if the price of something goes up, we expect people to reduce their consumption, we expect firms to increase their production. এটা একটা functional relationship না?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now some of you totally remember, some of you may have forgotten. Y is a function of x. What does that mean? The y variable depends on the x variable. When we write a relationship like this, the causations like this, y is a function of x. That means the y variable is dependent on x. This is how we read it verbally. আমরা যদি বলি y is dependent on x, তার মানে x must be the independent variable, তাই না?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
মানে আমরা যদি বলি y is a function of x, এটা তো আমাদের ছোটবেলা থেকে শিখিয়ে দিয়েছে, আমরা মুখস্থ করছি, পরীক্ষায় লিখে হয়তো 10-এ 10ও পেয়ে গেছি। But the thing is, let us try to read it verbally. Y is a function of x, y depends on x. That means x is the independent variable, y is the dependent variable. এই ব্যাপারে কি আমরা সবাই একমত মোটামুটি?
Yes, sir.
Good. তাহলে now I'm going to just paraphrase a little bit. Independent variable is the variable that changes first, x. Y is the variable that the catch is over here now. Y is the variable that changes after x and because of x. If we define x as the independent variable, by convention, x is always written on the right side. In a functional relationship, y, the dependent variable, will always be written on the left side. This is a convention. তারপর আমরা বলছি x is the independent variable. So common sense tells us x will definitely change first. Dependent variable is defined as the variable that changes after x and because of x. এটার অর্থ কি? Suppose X and Y are two events that happen one after another. ঠিক আছে? A independent variable always happens before dependent variable. এটাও আমরা একমত হয়েছি, ঠিক আছে? Okay?
Yes, sir.
But just because two events happen one after another, আমরা automatically কি সবসময় বলতে পারবো the first one is the independent, second one is the dependent? দুটো randomly ঘটনা দুটো আগে পিছে ঘটে গেছে, তো সাথে সাথে কি আমরা বলতে পারবো যে yes the first one is the independent because the independent variable always changes first, second one is the dependent because dependent variable changes after independent variable. এটা কি সব randomly যে কোনো ক্ষেত্রে বলতে পারবো? আর কি বলবো?
Oh, no, sir.
আচ্ছা, who's your favorite cricketer? Let's see what name comes up.
Shakib Al Hasan.
Saqib Al Hasan.
Shakib Al Hasan, okay. এখন Shakib Al Hasan is playing cricket, ঠিক আছে? And two events happen. সব বন্ধুরা মিলে দেখছো, one of your friend enters the room. This is the first event. ঠিক আছে? Shakib Al Hasan পরের বলে আউট হয়ে গেল. This is the second event. Can we say because your friend entered and thus Shakib Al Hasan got out? এটা বলা যাবে?
No, sir.
But ঘটনার ভিতরে কি আগে পিছে ঘটেছে না?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the problem is when we analyze independent and dependent variable অবশ্যই আগে ঘটবে, dependent variable ঘটবে after the independent variable, but the catch is since the dependent variable is dependent on the independent variable, so the dependent variable change will happen after the independent variable and because of the independent variable. Otherwise we will fall into trouble that আগে পিছে একটা দুটো ঘটনা ঘটলো তাই তোমার ইয়ে হচ্ছে কি বলে আমরা প্রথমটাকে ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট বলবো পরেরটাকে ডিপেন্ডেন্ট বলবো। এবার ক্লিয়ার? তবে নরমালি কি হয় এরকম ক্ষেত্রে যখন when friends are watching a cricket match, একটা বন্ধু ঘরে ঢুকলো সাথে সাথে সাকিব আউট হয়ে গেল, আমরা সাথে সাথে বলি না তুই বেটা একটা কুফা?
Right, sir.
হ্যাঁ, এটা তো আমরা
Yes,
বলি,
sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
কিন্তু এখন এটা তো সে আসলে কুফা না, এটা র্যান্ডমলি সে বেচারা ঢুকে গেছে। Okay, so this thing we have to clarify that yes, independent variable changes first, dependent variable changes after the independent variable and also because of the independent variable. So both after and because have to hold for a functional relationship. Is it clear ever?
Yes, sir.
Okay. তাহলে এখন দেখি we are presenting y is a function of x in the form of quantity demanded is a function of price. তার মানে কি we've written price on the right side, so price by convention is the independent variable. The independent variable is the variable that will happen change first, price. Quantity demanded, the amount that the households will buy after seeing the price is determined because of the price. ঠিক আছে তো?
Yes, sir.
So this relationship between the two variables is not random. Like our friend entered the room and then Shakib Al Hasan gets out. ঠিক আছে? For example, এখানে আবার উদাহরণটা আছে, a guest comes to the house, first event, your team wins a match. Second event, these two events are random. That's why after the clause and because of the clause, আমরা এটা বসিয়েছি. And another thing that we can now go through is that this question that do children of professional people just because they are children of professional people they are also successful in life? Yes, one can show a pattern, ঠিক আছে, কিন্তু can we say that this is a functional relationship?
No, sir.
No,
এটা
sir.
আমরা functional relationship বলতে পারবো না। এবার ক্লিয়ার তো?
Right.
I don't know undergrad কিভাবে পড়িয়েছে, but this is how what do you call it? This is the basic difference between correlation and causation. And causation is the thing that we will be looking at when we look at a graphical presentation. Okay? ঠিক আছে তো? আচ্ছা, causations are expressed as functions. We've already এগুলি আমরা already করে ফেলছি. Function of means that quantity is a function of price, etc. আচ্ছা জেনারেল ফর্মটা হচ্ছে এটা, this is the mathematical form. এইখানে হচ্ছে এই যে x is the independent variable, y is the dependent variable if we write it functionally. But when we present this in a graph, then the problem হচ্ছে আমাদের mathematics convention কোনটা, economics convention কোনটা, সেটা আমরা একটু পরে we'll get into that. আচ্ছা এটা তো লেখা, এটা বোঝার দরকার নেই তো, তাই না? যে this is 2 3 means what? 2 units to the right, 3 units upwards, so we get 2 3 coordinate. Minus 3 1 means 3 units to the left from the origin, 1 unit up from the origin, we get minus 3 1. এগুলো কি দরকার আছে?
স্যার এগুলো স্যার
এগুলো
জানি
লাগবে না।
আমরা।
এগুলি হ্যাঁ, এগুলি তো these are too basic. আচ্ছা এইখানে হচ্ছে this is an example from your text, most probably this is Stiglitz Walsh, yes, 2.1. So we have an opportunity set. Michelle is constrained by a particular level of income which she can spend either on DVDs or CDs. আজকাল দুইটার একটাও কিনে না লোকজন, everybody goes for streaming, তাই না, Spotify. But anyhow, so in the olden days when we were young, DVDs and CDs were the king. Now can you notice a particular relationship? আচ্ছা তার আমরা একটা কাজ করি, where's the where's the pen? Okay. DVDs of text. Okay, so according to the book, what we've done, DVDs are on x-axis, CDs are on the y-axis. ঠিক আছে? Can anybody observe a particular relationship here? If I spend my entire money buying DVDs, I cannot buy any CDs. এটা কি বোঝা যাচ্ছে? The first point.
Yes, sir.
Yes sir.
To visualize the thing, then we'll plot it in a graph. But আগে আমরা মাথায় ঢোকানোর চেষ্টা করি। আচ্ছা, then what happens? If I buy one DVD less, I can buy 2 CDs more, right?
Yes, sir.
If I buy another DVD less, I can buy 2 more CDs. 2 to the 4. If I buy 1 DVD less again, I can buy 2 more CDs again, right?
Yes, sir.
Acha, what conclusion can you draw from this particular phenomenon? Isn't the price of DVDs double that of CDs?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes sir, the DVD price is be high.
Okay, তাহলে if we plot DVDs on the x-axis according to your text and CDs on the y-axis, তাহলে we have 2 extreme points. What are the extreme points? 1 second please, আমি এখানে কিছু একটা ঘটছে। যাচ্ছে না কেন? Why can't I see the other menus? Well, so এই যে 6 পয়েন্টটা 60, isn't this the intercept of the x-axis?
Yes, sir.
Acha, similarly, if we spend all our money on CDs, which is on the y-axis, then এই পয়েন্টটা কি y-intercept না?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so our graph has an x-intercept, has a y-intercept. Now you tell me visually, it is a straight line downward sloping now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes sir, it's straight line downward.
Great. Then, since we have visualized that in our head, this is the graph. ঠিক আছে? Let's look at the 2 extreme points. 6 0 মানে x6 0 y0, x0 y12. So over here we have y12 x0. The other extreme we have x6 y0 ঠিক আছে
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay, now what we need to introduce is what is a slope. Does anybody remember what a slope is? If you've forgotten, don't worry, I'm Nasi. I'll answer the question. But the thing is, does anybody remember what a slope is from high school?
Sir, gradient.
Gradient of what does gradient mean? You're just telling me.
It's basically the ratio of the slope with the rate of change of x to y. Basically.
Okay, lovely. Now, once you've used the word ratio, you have done something unknowingly or subconsciously. You've compared something with something, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can compare it.
এখন রেশিও বলে এখন কেউ হয়তো বললো y by x, কেউ হয়তো বললো x by y.
Yes, sir.
That doesn't matter. But the moment we use the word ratio, that means we are comparing something against something. The word ratio comes from the word relation. So যখনই আমরা রিলেশন সব দেখছি, we are comparing something with something. Slope is basically a change. That change happens on the two axes. One on the x-axis, another on the y-axis. ঠিক আছে? Now, what is the mathematical convention? When we compare a change, we always compare it against a base value, তাই না? For example, if we say that the speed of our car is 100 kilometers, that doesn't make sense until and unless we say 100 kilometers per hour. তাই না? এখন এই 100 kilometers per second ও হতে পারে। এই 100 kilometers per you might be crossing this distance in 1 month. এটাও হতে পারে, তাই না? So once we say that the speed of a car is 100 kilometers, that means we are definitely comparing it against a reference value, in this case time. Similarly, in the case of slopes, we compare the change in the dependent variable in relation to the independent variable. This is the general formula of slope.
So it measures the relationship between x and y.
X and y আমরা পরে আসি. I'm doing it totally, what do you call it?
Dependent and independent, right?
Dependent and independent variable. Now the question is, which axis is independent and which axis is not independent? এতগুলো কথা বলার উদ্দেশ্যটা হচ্ছে, we are mathematically wired to see del y by del x as the slope, তাই না? আমরা ছোটবেলা থেকে তো ওইভাবে আমাদেরকে ওয়্যার করে দেওয়া হয়েছে, so it's not our fault. But if we generalize the slope definition of the slope as change in dependent due to change in independent. For example, if we say the speed of a car is 100 kilometers, it makes no sense until and unless we say the time unit 100 kilometers per hour. তাহলে স্লোপটা হচ্ছে চেঞ্জ ইন ডিপেন্ডেন্ট ডিউ টু চেঞ্জ ইন ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট। নাও ইফ দ্য independent variable is x, definition of slope is del y by del x. If the independent variable is y, definition of slope becomes del x by del y.
So not necessarily x is always the independent variable.
Now it is mathematically in a mathematical convention. ঠিক আছে, but if we change that convention, তাহলে তো del y by del x is not going to be our slope, তাই না?
Right.
If we say that the vertical axis is the independent axis, তাহলে slope এর definition is the del y by, because we are wired to say del y by del x.
Yes, sir.
ঠিক আছে, but if we define that, okay, the vertical axis is the independent variable, তাহলে কিন্তু আমাদের slope এর definition হয়ে যাচ্ছে del x by del y. So if on the x-axis you have quantity demanded, on the y-axis you have p, price, the independent variable. ঠিক আছে, তাহলে slope becomes what? Del q by del p না?
Yes, sir.
But আমাদের independent variable টা এখন price, which is on the vertical axis. এটা আমরা পরে দেখবো যে এটা প্রবলেমটা কোথায় হয়, বাট এটা ভিজুয়ালাইজ করা যাচ্ছে তো?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
লাভলি। না কারো কারোর জন্য এটা একটু প্রবলেম হবে, কারণ হচ্ছে অনেকদিন পরে আর ম্যাথমেটিক্সটা খুব বাজেভাবে পড়ায় স্কুলে, দে ডোন্ট মেক ফান অফ ইট। ওকে, তাহলে আমাদের the slope according to your Stiglitz and Wolf 2.5 page 47, slope is nothing but a ratio. Ratio means এখানে আমি লিখছি y as the dependent variable because ঠিক আছে, this is the mathematics convention. Now the economics convention is just the opposite. Y is our independent variable, x is our dependent variable. This is how we have been wired to see an economics graph. Price will always be on the vertical axis. Quantity demanded or quantity supplied is always presented on the horizontal axis. ঠিক আছে? তাহলে তোমার if you are from a mathematics background and then you see okay, quantity demanded is a function of price. Price is the independent variable. So why is price on the vertical axis? এটা একটা প্রশ্ন জাগে না?
Yes, sir.
That's the answer now. The two are different. That's it. So the economics convention is vertical axis y is the independent variable, and horizontal axis x is the dependent variable. তাইলে del y by del x is the mathematics slope in this context. Del x by del y is the independent economic slope. Is that clear now?
Yes,
So
sir.
here x is the dependent variable, right?
X is the dependent variable, correct.
But I think we need some modification in the slide.
Yeah, you need the modification in the slide because slide রেটটাতে mathematically দেখা হয়েছে, ওইটা একটু পরে আবার আমরা ক্লিয়ার করব।
Okay, sir.
But you pointed it out, এটা মানে you noticed it, that means you are paying attention. What's your name?
Sir, Ahad Shariar.
Ahad Shariar. Okay, lovely. আচ্ছা, এইটা তো এখন এটা বোঝার দরকার আছে। If the slope is 2, what does that mean? If we say slope is a ratio, if we say the value of the slope is 2, that means 2 by 1. If we say slope is a ratio, if we say that the value of that ratio is half, তার মানে হচ্ছে x এর price y এর চেয়ে double, তাই না? So if the price of tea in India is 20, Bangladesh 10, so if we compare India against Bangladesh, we will get the ratio as 2 by 1, right? If we do the reverse, we compare the price of what do you call it, Bangladesh against India, তাহলে আমাদের স্লোপের মানটা হাফ হবে না?
Yes, sir. Half of it.
ঠিক আছে তো? So the attitude is কোনটা সাপেক্ষে কোনটাকে তুলনা করছি আমরা? We are wired to compare y against x. এখন আমরা ঠিক উল্টাটা করব। We will be comparing x against y. আচ্ছা, তাহলে আচ্ছা, এখানে রাইজ বাই রান, আচ্ছা শারিয়ার যে প্রশ্নটা করেছে যে রাইজ বাই রান কি? রাইজ মানে কি? It is a vertical movement, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. The vertical movement, right?
The moment we use the word run, we are always running horizontally.
Horizontal.
Horizontal.
If we are calculating the slope as rise by run, we are making a mathematical calculation, right?
Yes, sir.
নিচে হচ্ছে horizontal axis run. এখন আমি যদি প্রশ্ন করি make this an economics slope, তাহলে কিন্তু rise by run হবে না, কি হবে? Run by rise হবে না?
Yes, sir.
That's it. You guys have totally understood the whole problem now. ঠিক আছে? So if the mathematical slope is 2 by 1, economic slope হয়ে যাবে half.
Okay, sir.
If mathematics shows us that a curve is 90 degree, economics ওটাকে 0 degree হিসেবে দেখবে না? We're going to go into those graphs now.
Yes, sir. Because half is called 90 degree. Yes, sir.
আচ্ছা আমি জিনিসটা বলি when we are wired mathematically we are familiar to see a vertical line and just say that is curvature is 90 degree, right?
Yes, sir.
90 degree against what? The x-axis, তাই না?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
এখন যদি আমি বলি যে না, see this same graph and tell me the curvature against the y-axis, তখন জিরো হবে না?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Zero হয়ে যাবে। Yes.
এবার ক্লিয়ার?
Yes, sir.
আচ্ছা এখন কেউ যদি বলে যে এক্স অ্যাক্সিস এর হরিজন্টাল একটা লাইন আমি দেখছি, so if I just a second, okay, আমার বাসায় ওই যে বললাম না অনেক ফিজিক্যাল ওয়ার্কস হচ্ছে, ফিক্সিং দ্য পার্কর। আচ্ছা anyhow, so if I see a line that is horizontal to the x-axis, if I'm a mathematician, I will automatically say the curvature is 0 degree, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Sir.
sir.
Why is it 0 degree? It is 0 degree to the reference axis, which is x.
Nice.
এখন কেউ যদি বলে যে না, my reference axis is y, তাহলে that same graph will become 90 degree to the y axis, তাই না?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
তখন আমরা ইকোনমিক্স এর কনভেনশনে বলবো ওটা স্লোপ হচ্ছে ইনফিনিটি। এটা ক্লিয়ার আছে? আমরা I'll show you graphs, don't worry, but এমনি মোটামুটি যেভাবে বলছি এটা মোটামুটি ক্লিয়ার হয়েছে? Can you visualize it? Okay, lovely. Then once we get to the graphs, it will be very, very simple. The visualize করতে পারলেই হয়, কঠিন কিছু না। এই যে একটু আগে we gave this example, যে if the price of tea is টাকা 20 in India and টাকা 10 in Bangladesh, price of tea of India in relation to Bangladesh is double if X is the price of Bangladesh is the independent variable. কিন্তু আমরা যদি উল্টোভাবে করি, if we want to compare the price of tea in Bangladesh with that of India, then আমাদের half হয়ে যাবে। তাহলে price of X is 2 in India, price of Y is 1 in Bangladesh. Okay, so we can have ratios like this, px by py ও পেতে পারি, py by px ও পেতে পারি, depends on against what we are comparing.
স্যার বাংলায় যেটা বলে কোনটার সাপেক্ষে কোনটা ধরা হচ্ছে, তাই তো স্যার?
Perfect. Don't worry about English Bangla, মানে as long as you can understand, that's it. You're perfectly all right now. আচ্ছা স্লোপ হচ্ছে এই জিনিসটা কি কারো খেয়াল আছে? Slope shows a change, right?
Yes, sir. Delta, sir.
আচ্ছা delta, when the moment we use the word the Greek delta, আমরা একটা change indicate করি, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Change
sir.
indicate.
The moment we use the word change, we are talking about two positions: a position before the change, a position after the change. তাই না?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So আমাদের একটা প্রি পজিশন আছে, একটা পোস্ট পজিশন আছে। আমরা যখনই চেঞ্জ বলছি, চেঞ্জ কিন্তু ইটস অ্যান অবজারভেশন অফ টু পার্টিকুলার সিচুয়েশনস, an observation that happened before the change, an observation that happened after the change. So if it's a horizontal movement and if it's positive, তাহলে x2 minus x1 কি পজিটিভ হবে না? This is x1, this is x2. This is the pre position, this is the post position. তাহলে আমরা কি ডান দিকে যাচ্ছি, তাই তো?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Positive হবে, sir.
Positive হবে, positive relation.
Why? Because the post position is larger than the pre position.
Preposition.
আচ্ছা এখন আমরা যে লেফটওয়ার্ড মুভমেন্ট করতাম, তাহলে ওই x2 আর x1 কিন্তু আর চেঞ্জ হতো না, চেঞ্জ হতো তখন কি x1 minus x2 না?
Negative relation.
হ্যাঁ, নেগেটিভ মানে কি যে x1 টা হচ্ছে লাস্ট পজিশন, পোস্ট পজিশন নাও, x2 is the pre position,
x2 টা ছোট হবে।
এই তো হ্যাঁ, আর ভার্টিক্যালি we give the same argument. যদি y1 নিচের সিচুয়েশন হয়, y2 যদি উপরের সিচুয়েশন হয়, if we have an upward movement, we write y2 minus y1, post minus pre. This is the general formula. যদি আবার ডাউনওয়ার্ড মুভমেন্ট হয়, আমরা আবার post minus pre লিখবো, But in this case, post becomes y1, pre becomes y2, the position that we started off at. ঠিক আছে তো?
Yes, sir.
Best way to understand a change is to generalize it by post minus pre. ঠিক আছে? এই যে a post minus pre, and a positive change, we define a positive change as increasing and a negative change as decreasing. এই তো। আচ্ছা, এখন আমি একটা ছোট্ট একটা ইয়ে দেখাই। You guys know these things, but okay, we have del y, এখানে আছে x. This is the ratio. We want to find the range of values. Values of a ratio. ঠিক আছে? How do we approach this problem? We want to find a range of values. We are comparing del y against del x. আমাদের তিনটা সিচুয়েশন পেতে পারি আমরা।
y2 minus y1.
Either y is greater than change in x, del y
is
equal to del x,
equal to x
আর এটা হচ্ছে del y is less than del
less
x.
than x.
Is there any other logical possibility outside these three?
No, sir, it's not possible.
Impossible.
We are basically, when we are looking at a ratio, we are comparing something against something. কোনো কিছুর সাপেক্ষে। এই বাংলায় যে জিজ্ঞেস করছিল, and যেটা সাপেক্ষে চেঞ্জটা দেখি সেটা অলওয়েজ নিচে থাকে। For example, del y is speed 100 kilometers. That makes no sense unless we say that del x is the time unit. So when we are comparing something against something as a ratio, এই তিনটা পসিবিলিটির বাইরে আর কিছু হবে না। হবে? হ্যাঁ?
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
তাইলে the first one is more than 1. Second one is equal to 1. And the last one is less than 1, তাই না?
Yes, sir.
So when we compare a ratio or when we analyze a ratio, এই তিনটা logical, just a second. আচ্ছা, এই তিনটা লজিক্যাল আর্গুমেন্ট ছাড়া আর কোনো আর্গুমেন্ট নাই। ওকে, আচ্ছা এখন দেখি। So there is three possibilities. One, it can be more than 1. Two, it can be equal to 1. 3, it can be less than 1. Is there anybody একটু critically analysis করতে চায়? আমরা যখন বলতেছি more than 1, তখন একটা প্রশ্ন জাগতে পারে না? How large? Is there an upper limit?
Yes, sir. What about the range?
আচ্ছা, আমরা যখন দেখব less than 1, তখন একইভাবে একটা প্রশ্ন জিজ্ঞেস করতে পারে how less, মানে কম, মনে হচ্ছে কম হবে, ভালো কথা, কত কম? তাইলে when we say more than 1, what is the maximum value that we can get?
Sir, infinity, sir.
Infinity is that infinity.
Correct. And when we say less than 1, what is the minimum value?
Minus infinity, sir. 0, sir. 0. So 0, sorry.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, plus infinity to minus infinity.
Plus minus টা বাদ দিয়ে না, plus minus is just direction. এটা করছি না, বৃদ্ধি করছে, বাট যদি আমরা অ্যাবসলিউটলি দেখি, ratios initially can take only these three values. More than 1 যদি উপরেরটা নিচের চেয়ে বড় হয়, equal to 1 উপর নিচের চেঞ্জটা যদি সেম হয়, less than 1 উপরটা যদি নিচেরটার চেয়ে ছোট হয়। ঠিক আছে? And finally, if it is more than 1, then the question is how large? Maximum is infinity. And if it is less than 1, the question is কত কমতে পারবে? 0 নিচে তো আর নামতে পারবে না। So ratios are always like this. এবার ক্লিয়ার?
Yes, sir.
Right.
আচ্ছা, তাহলে এখন আমরা আবার এখানে যাই। আমরা we are still in the mathematics convention. তাহলে আমরা যদি বলি this is equal to infinity, what does this mean? Somebody who is not confident with mathematics, please answer. Somebody who is confident with mathematics, don't answer. আজকের ক্লাসটা হচ্ছে ম্যাথমেটিক্সে যারা একটু কনফিডেন্ট না তাদের জন্য। If I say del y by del x is equal to infinity, what does that mean? নিচেরটা জিরো না?
Yes, sir.
If the change in x is not equal to zero, sorry, if the change in x is equal to zero, then this ratio by definition has to be infinity. তাই তো?
Yes, sir.
আচ্ছা, এখন is there anybody who has problem understanding this? এটার interpretation কি? We are not interested in mathematics. Always remember this. As x does not change, this is independent, but y does. এটা কি ভার্বালি আমরা এটা বলতে পারি? Del x is equal to 0, that means x is not changing, but y is. ভার্বালি আমরা এটা বুঝি, এটা কেউ বুঝতে কারো সমস্যা আছে কিনা? ভার্বালি
স্যার আরেকবার একটু বলবেন স্যার।
আচ্ছা, let's try to visualize this. Once we visualize it, graphs বোঝাটা কোনো ব্যাপারই না। এখানে আমরা বলতেছি the ratio is infinity. The only way this ratio can be infinity is if the change in x is equal to 0, right? এর বাইরে হবে
না স্যার, এর বাইরে হবে।
আচ্ছা, so change in x 0 মানে কি? আমরা দুটো অবজারভেশন করছি, দেখা যাচ্ছে y চেঞ্জ হয়ে যাচ্ছে কিন্তু x চেঞ্জ হচ্ছে না। তাই দাঁড়ায় না কথাটা?
জি স্যার, জি স্যার।
means আমরা বলতেছি del y is equal is 0, greater than 0, তার মানে x এর কোনো পরিবর্তন হচ্ছে না কিন্তু y এর পরিবর্তন হচ্ছে। Do you understand? আমি যদি এখন ভার্বালি এই কথাটা বলি তাহলে এই রেশিওটা ম্যাথমেটিক্যালি এটা দাঁড়াবে না, x এর কোনো চেঞ্জ হচ্ছে না আগে পিছে কিন্তু y কিন্তু বেড়ে যাচ্ছে, তাই না?
জি স্যার, y বেড়ে যাচ্ছে স্যার।
আচ্ছা, এখন দেখি x is on this axis, x এর কোনো চেঞ্জ হচ্ছে না কিন্তু y বেড়ে যাচ্ছে, isn't it? Are we talking about a vertical movement upwards? X,
yes sir, now
Yes,
it's
sir.
clear sir, now it's clear. Yes sir.
good. This is
Can we relate this if we compare x with the area of Bangladesh and y with the population of Bangladesh? Is this relatable?
I don't think so.
Because sir, I just came in my mind because the area is not changing, population is increasing.
Yes.
Right. Area changed. আমাদের কিন্তু ল্যান্ড কিন্তু বেড়ে গেছে, ওই যে ছিটমহল গুলো পেছনে অনেক।
Yes sir,
স্যার ওটা যদি কনসিডার না করি আর কি, if we just ধরে নিই যে
তাহলে এখন let's do the opposite one. তাহলে this is definitely we are talking about a movement like this. We take one point here and another point here. This is A, this is B. As we move from A to B, we observe that del x is equal to 0, del y is equal to greater than 1 because there is a positive upward movement. ঠিক আছে? Now, আমি ক্লিয়ার তো?
Yes, sir.
এখন যদি আমরা এভাবে বলি, this can only be possible কিভাবে? If del y is equal to 0, right?
yes sir, del y is equal to
না, তাই না?
x sir unchanged.
X is not unchanged, x is changing. x কিন্তু বেড়ে যাচ্ছে, x এর ভার্টিক্যাল মুভমেন্ট হচ্ছে,
ভার্টিক্যাল ওকে ওকে স্যার
x y is unchanged, তাহলে if this is y and this is a, then this is our function. As we move from here to here, what do we see? X change হচ্ছে না?
জি স্যার এটা ফরওয়ার্ড মুভে স্যার চলে যাচ্ছে
Is y changing as we move from the left this
লেফট টু রাইট
B C দিলাম, as we move from B to C, is y changing? Value of y কি চেঞ্জ হয়ে যাচ্ছে? তাহলে এটা ঠিক আছে না? del y is equal to 0 and del x is greater than 0. তাহলে এইভাবে যদি আমরা বলি, then we are looking at visually we are looking like this, okay? আচ্ছা তাহলে আমরা এখন আবার যাই। Okay, these are the 4 types of slope. These are mathematical slopes. Now somebody in this class, one girl, used the word direct and indirect relationship, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, direct and indirect relationship যদি আমরা বলি, then we have a definite ratio within which the changes are happening. We'll use the words positive and negative. So if we are looking at a direct relationship, we will use the word positive, যে independent আর dependent এর মধ্যে relationship আছে, independent change হলে dependent একই দিকে মুভ করে। Look at this green one, positive. If we move from here to here, তার মানে কি x বাড়ছে, y ও বাড়ছে না? If we move from this point to this point, what happens? As x is increasing rightwards, y is increasing vertically upwards, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
আচ্ছা এখন কেউ যদি বলে না আমি লেফট রাইট, আমি উল্টা মুভমেন্টটা দেখতে চাই, I want to see the movement from 3 4 to 1 2, তাহলে কি x কমে যাচ্ছে because x is moving leftward, y কমে যাচ্ছে because y is moving downwards, right?
Yes, sir.
So if both the changes are happening in the same direction, if both of them are increasing or both of them are decreasing, we call that a positive change or a direct change if you like. Conversely, negative হচ্ছে if 1 is increasing, এখানে কি হচ্ছে? As we move from 1 2 to 3 0, x is increasing but y is decreasing, right? দুই দিকে মুভ করছে না?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that's a negative change. আচ্ছা কেউ যদি আমি উল্টাটা দেখতে চাই, I want to move from 3 0 to 1 2. No problem. X is decreasing with a leftward movement and y is increasing with an upward movement. So ultimately what is happening generally with a negative relationship, if x increases, y decreases. If x decreases, y increases. They move in the opposite directions. আর জিরো স্লোপটা কি? del y by del x হচ্ছে 0, তার মানে as x changes there is no change in y. Can you visualize that now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. And undefined কি? যে x change হবে না কিন্তু y বাড়তেই থাকবে, তাহলে হচ্ছে লাস্টেরটা। Clear?
Yes, sir.
ওকে, এখন দেখি এখানে কি আছে। আচ্ছা আজান কি এখন দেবে?
আজান স্যার অলরেডি স্যার দিতেছে
তাহলে আজান দিচ্ছে।
দিচ্ছে না, আমার দিচ্ছে না। তাহলে আমি একটা কাজ করি, এখন তো 7:35 বাজে,